Good evening. Welcome to Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, normally your hostess for this show, but tonight we're going to turn it over to PJ DeGrosse. And PJ is a very capable lady. That's why I've invited her on. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Villa Bass Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous Bass Chorizo, as well as Carpenter Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, balsamic vinegar, and international teas. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. So PJ, it's a pleasure to have you on this program, and I thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I understand that there are people out there who seem to think either I'm a mystery or, as you put it, an onion that needs to be peeled back. Okay. So I know that there are turning points in our lives, and you and I have lived. We're almost the same age. We are, I'm right. 70, just a brand new 70, and PJ is maybe a couple of weeks ahead of me, that's all. But it's because of the areas of not only this country, but other countries we've lived in, the lives of travel that we've had, and the circumstances that make us who we are today. And the same thing is true for you out there. And we are willing to share what some of those turning points, what some of those areas of our lives have been that have helped us, that have shaped us, that have matured us, and that have seasoned us to the point where we hope that this show is a real blessing to you as well. So PJ, what's up?
Yes. What's up? First of all, I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to do this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Because in the same tone that you said, we've grown and we experience things, this is the first time I've been on a lot of television shows and all kinds of things, but I've never interviewed anyone or been a host of anything. So this is such a great thing for me because it's pushing me a little bit beyond my boundaries.
And that's good. That's
healthy. Good. It's always good
right.
to be growing. No matter how old you get, you still want to grow.
Absolutely.
So my first thing that I wanted to talk to you about, because I have lived in societies, not in other countries, but I've lived in Florida, which is multicultural.
Yes.
And I've lived with a lot of different ethnicities and a lot of different women. Mm-hmm. So, and I know that you have lived in other countries, in Iran and other countries. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about women? Do you think that women are all the same wherever, or do you think that their culture really changes them inherently as a woman?
That's a great question. I think women are nurturers to begin with. That's a common trait that we have, that we share together. I think that we are great supporters of one another. We network, we help one another, we talk to one another, and because we are mothers, most of us, right. Our children humble us in so many ways, and we have to learn how to deal with children, and sometimes we seek older women, not necessarily our mothers, the children's grandmothers, not necessarily our sisters, but other women that we meet during the course of growing, of rearing a family that have already gone through it, and sometimes our frustration just says, help me. But I like your question, PJ, in the sense, yes, cultures do shape us. And if I had grown up in Iran, I certainly would have a different perspective on myself as a woman, as opposed to having grown up in a democratic Western culture, right. The United States. I stood out like a sore thumb.
I betcha.
I did. And it wasn't that they made me feel like that. It was simply, I didn't speak the language. I didn't know how to cook their foods. I didn't know how to dress. I didn't know how to work with servants. I had never had servants in my life. Never thought that it was ever going to be even an ingredient right. to my life. And it made me ask myself, if I were a servant, how would I like to be treated in terms of respect, in terms of responsibilities in the household? And I found out that my fairly fair equalization of people within a household, depending upon their age, but the respect given right. to them, didn't fit in Iran. I was expected to be a toughie and to really toe the line. They could have this, but they couldn't have that. They could sit there, but they couldn't sit here. Right. That bothered me.
Right. I would think that it would, because you are a very strong, dominant personality. And it would be hard for me to imagine you being in that kind of a country and sitting very quietly on the side and not saying anything. I think that my experience also living in, like I said, in Miami, mm-hmm. was the culture was, I married a Cuban man. And in the Cuban culture, the woman does the washing and the laundry and the watching the kids, and the woman back then had no voice. And so it was very hard for me to be in that kind of environment. You also were married to someone who was not an American citizen. Did you find it difficult to mold yourself to be a little more conducive to his way of life?
Yes, I did. And it's not that I consider myself a doormat to be walked on, to be walked over, but I knew that in a culture that was alien to the one I was born in and developed in, that for me to be trusted, for me to be accepted into the family was so important to me, because I'm a family-oriented person, that I needed to learn the language. I needed to learn how to do their cooking. And when Mama, my mother-in-law, Mama John would walk into the kitchen and pull up the lid on whatever I was cooking, she'd say, "Why? Kill my son."
I can totally relate to that. I can, because I once blew up a pressure cooker with black beans in it, and my mother-in-law came in and heard the explosion and saw the beans on her ceiling and went nuts. But, you know, I was a kid.
Yes.
Carol, there's something else that I want to ask you about, because in my eyes, I think you're the consummate professional, and I have great respect for you and admiration for you because of the way you've lived, the things you've done, the things you're so accomplished. But my question to you is, did you ever have a failure in your life of something that you really wanted to do, and how did you turn it around into a success? Did it? I know for some people, you know, they turn it into the tragedy, and that stops them right in their tracks. How did you take? Without, you don't even have to tell us what the thing was, but how did you take something that meant so much to you that was a failure and turn it into something positive and then into a growing experience?
Well, I can think of early on, I came back from my honeymoon after marrying Farouk Ibadzadeh Alipur here in the United States. And we got back to our little tiny student apartment at Kent State University. And he's fallen asleep, and I'm laying wide awake, saying, "Oh my, what have I just gone and done? How did I marry this man? I knew him, I dated him for 3 years, we were engaged for 3 years, but marriage for me is, it's until you die."
Right.
Okay, I believe in marriage very much. And I'm thinking to myself, as a 25-year-old woman, what did you let yourself in for? What does this mean? Your parents tried to warn you. Lots of people tried to warn you. But here I am in a marriage, married to an Iranian, and he's Islamic. Heavily Islamic? No. But raised within a culture that is very dominant with men. So that night, PJ, I prayed. And I said, Lord, I need to have you really help guide me, let me listen, because as a teacher in a classroom, you're the manager.
Right.
I said, there are 2 managers in this marriage now, one from a different culture. Even though you know him as a person fairly well, that's not the same as marriage.
Right.
So I prayed, and I said, Lord, I need help. Show me what to say, where to go, and please keep my temperament low key. Okay.
Is that possible?
Because I do have a temper. I'm Scottish, and that temper is there. But it's not a temper that flares very often. I have to be backed up into a wall before I will strike back.
Right.
And then I'm unreasonable. But unreasonable in the sense that I will give you the truth right to your face and what's really bothering me. And then I expect reconciliation. I expect to talk, to work things through. I don't expect to leave the room. I don't expect the other person to leave the room. But let's talk about this now. Let's come to a point where we understand each other better. And but underneath it all, I had high regard for my husband. I respected him very much. He was an architect. The studies are demanding, the physics and the math. And I respected him because he had to take all of those courses like philosophy, like literature. And to take that in not your own language is quite a challenge. So we worked together on that. But I respected and admired him for his determination, for his focus. And that held me with him.
So let me ask you in retrospect, would you have done it again?
Ah.
And because obviously you remarried again. So from that experience, and that would be, I would think that would be the hardest thing to, especially someone from totally from another country with a totally different religious belief. We're not just talking about marrying somebody from New York and you live in Miami here. So what I wonder is, would you do it again knowing everything you knew? And when you left that, what did you learn from that relationship that has moved you into your current life that you've taken from that part?
That's a powerful question, and I've asked myself, would you ever do this again, Carol? And I think the answer would have to be, now that I'm here at 70 and I can look back, if you'd asked me that question at 35, I'd say, no, because it's so hard. It's so challenging, emotionally and mentally. But now at 70, yes, I would, because the Persian culture, the Persian family, were so loving and giving to me and with me, that they taught me about tolerance.
Right.
They taught me about not being partial. They taught me impartiality. They taught me hospitality. And that's not to say that my own parents and my own family didn't have, but they taught me a form of international hospitality, the acceptance as someone who's so different from them. And not someone that they would hope that their son would marry. You know, the Turks, my Persian family is Turkish in background, and they guard that nationality like a bank vault would guard somebody else's treasures.
Right.
You marry within that culture, you marry within that faith, and you marry within that mindset.
All right, so let me ask you, since we've seemed to have taken off on this relationships and marriage, and I find it very interesting because I relate to a lot of things you said because I was married to someone who wasn't from America, and I totally understand the feelings and everything like that. Now, you have moved on and you do a lot of things. You're very busy, you're very active, you're constantly on the go. How important is that for you to have a husband like Jose who supports you in everything you do?
Well, sometimes I think you have a better side to knowing him than I do. He gives me a piece of his mind quite often, and we don't always click.
Well, then let's just say, you know, how is it working for you?
Okay. It's working well. Jose was a surprise in my life. As a teacher, you prepare for the day, you prepare for the class, you do your research. Jose came on me like a bombshell, and he was a New Yorker. Transplanted from Cuba, from Spain, from Venezuela. But I think his encouragement, you know, people see different things in you that you don't see in yourself. Right. And Jose is one of those thinkers who thinks outside of the box, and he sees the potential, he sees the possibility. He doesn't see negativity.
Right.
He's very much an optimist and full of emotions and full of thoughts, full of energies. So he kind of came up against a woman who has lots of energy, and thank you, Lord, I've had good health. But he also met somebody who's not a swing vote.
Right.
Okay? You're going to have to talk it over. It's going to have a practical sense with me. It's going to have to help people. But I have to be able to do it.
Right, right.
And I don't count on myself ever to do something on my own. I partner with a husband. I partner with a friend.
Right.
I partner, above all, with the Lord.
Right. Carol, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you having me here. I love talking to you. I could sit here and we do this.
We do
this. But every time we speak, I learn more things about you, and I feel more connected to you. And I think that this show, and for everybody that's watching this show, if they can feel the connectiveness of us and realize that the people out there, your viewers, they're not different from us. They might be a different age, they might be a different race, but we're all women, and there's not a lot that people haven't experienced that we've invented.
And you know what else, PJ? It's that sense of commonality experiences.
Right.
You and I are new family. I say.
Right,
We're a
we
new
are.
family because we discovered that in getting to know one another, we're much more alike than different.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily mean in personality. It means that life's experiences have brought us together to be able to talk and to share in a way that we want our children and grandchildren to be able to enjoy
Right.
as they grow. And I think it's so important that we not shut our minds, that we not shut our lives, and think, okay, this number of years I have left on earth, this is how I want to spend them. No, I say, Lord, how do you want me to spend them?
Exactly.
And I know that wherever I am, wherever I go, there's a purpose for me being there.
It's interesting you say that because today I was telling someone, if I have to be in this world and I have to be in this life, let me go through this life making a difference so that when I'm not here any longer, people will know that I was here.
Yes, yes. And going back to an original thought that we expressed at the beginning, there are turning points, there are decision moments in our lives that when we're in them, we may not realize at the time that this is a powerful event that's taking place.
Right.
And we need to say, okay, and I will share one or two of those in the second half when we come back. But I know that it was decision-making time. Marriages are always decision-making times, but there were personal things that only Carol was going to have to think about. And I can remember one day laying in a hospital bed in New York City at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, beautiful May day, skies were blue, I could hear birds outside, but I wasn't a part of that for a reason. And I understood, all right, Carol, this is happening and you weren't expecting it. Now, what do we do? How do we deal with this? And the we part is not just Carol, it's somebody else.
Right.
So I'll be glad to share that with you when we come back.
Thank you. Please stay with us. We'll be right back with more questions for Carol.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
Come into Villa Basque Deli and Cafe right here in Carson City, Nevada. Discover fine Portuguese extra virgin olive oils, vintage balsamic vinegars, and a wide assortment of international health teas provided by distributor Carpa Nevada LLC. In addition to these terrific items, Villa Basque is also the home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, handmade on the premises from Pete's secret family recipe. Satisfy your culinary curiosities. Don't delay.
Apex SCF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
Welcome back to Women to Women. My name is PJ DeGrosse, and I'm your host today for this show. I'm going to be asking questions of Carol this time. Carol, would you like to tell us about our sponsors for the show?
Thank you, PJ. Yes, for this half of the show, we'd like to thank CarsonNow.org, which is the #1 place on the internet to go for anything late-breaking news here in Carson City. We also appreciate having Apex SCF. Whether you are at home, you're in your workplace, or you're on the campus, they teach proven methods of how to stay alive. And we always want to especially welcome and a great supporter, the Nevada Appeal and the Record Courier. They always encourage us to shop locally and to watch for those very special coupon books that appear once a month in their Sunday editions. So we thank each and every one of them. Okay, Miss PJ, what's on the next
Well,
agenda?
you know, Carol, when we ended the first segment, we were
Yes.
talking about turning points.
Yes.
And we've all had those in our lives.
Sure.
We've had good ones, we've had bad ones. We've also, I know for myself, sometimes in life you get a mission or a message kind of pushing you in a direction. It could be good, it could be bad. What I want to talk to you about is some of your turning points in your life that made you might have been heading this way and all of a sudden you went that way. And what was it? And what was it in your mind or in your heart that made you take that detour?
Well, as a woman, I can't speak only but for myself, but I remember at the age of 40, I had come back from overseas for a medical checkup, and only to learn that I had a cancerous tumor in one of my breasts. And I realized suddenly, oh my goodness, this is dangerous. This could be really serious. And I had a wonderful physician at Columbia Presbyterian, but I also saw myself as a mother of a 9-year-old.
Right.
I saw myself as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter, as a teacher, as a friend. And when I laid there in that hospital bed on that beautiful May morning, I thought, you know, vanity goes out the door. It quickly straightens your priorities up in a hurry.
Right.
And I said, the bottom line for me, let's get the cancer. Let's get the cancer. Now, what does that mean, Dr. Habif? And he said, it means mastectomy. I said, let's do it. Does it mean a radical mastectomy? Does it mean a modified? He said, modified. Okay, let's do it. Because life is very important to me. My child is very important, my husband, all the relationships. And if I'm disfigured, so be it. We do the surgery. He comes back in, and the pathology report was really good. We had caught it at its inception, so there was no need for chemo or radiation. Right. And then about 6 weeks later, I asked Dr. Habif, what about the other side? What about the other breast? He said, there is something there, but it looks like it's precancerous. I said, you know, Dr. Habif, let's do a simple mastectomy. Bottom line with me, get the cancer.
Right.
So we did. When pathology came back, there was the cancer lurking in that breast. And I thought to myself, you know, this is a major decision because I was in the hospital seeing 18-year-old women, mothers of 2-year-olds, of 1-year-olds. I was seeing grandmothers in their 60s and 65 year age of life, and they did not make it. The 18-year-old died. The 65-year-old grandmother died. And I kept in contact with them after that encounter. You know, hospitals, as certain other places where you meet people, you can become instant friends.
Absolutely.
You stay in communication, and you talk, you support each other. And I thought to myself, Lord, if you allow me to continue to live, I will never forget this time. And whatever I can do to make a difference, wherever you send me, whatever you ask, I'll do it. I'll do it.
And you have.
I have tried, certainly I've tried, but I also understand that it takes those kinds of challenges. God knew it was going to happen. I didn't, but He walked me through it. And I realized that He was with me, and I didn't know where the struggle was going to take me. But little by little, the doctor said, Carol, would you call this person? Would you speak with this person? Would you encourage this person? And I said, absolutely. And it changes you as a person. It creates in you a sense of gratitude. My attitude became one of gratefulness, of thanksgiving, and of such appreciation for what I had, regardless of how little it was or how much it was. It gave me a sense of well-being that no matter where I went, I was supposed to be there.
Right.
And it grew me up. It grew me up as a mother. It grew me up as a wife. It grew me up as a teacher and as a friend. And would I go back through it again? Yes, I needed to be changed. I needed to be matured. I needed to be marinated and seasoned. And it took that to do it. It took that. So, do I have any regrets? I had a wonderful husband who said, Carol, if you want reconstruction, go for it. I said, in time, just let me be right now who I am, where I'm at, and don't push me any further. And eventually I took that route. And I married a second husband after I had been single for 8 years, who said, okay, Carol, you know what? You can tell me anything you want to about you. I love what I see. I love when I talk with you. I love who you are. And that's important for each and every woman, to receive that and to know that she is important just the way she is today.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I firmly believe that. And when you talk about, there's an expression, you don't grow from happiness. I'm sure you've heard this. Mm-hmm. You grow from sadness. You grow from strife. You go from going through really tough situations. Mm-hmm. That's when you really grow. Mm-hmm. And I used to always say, why can't you grow from happiness? Because happiness doesn't require a lot. You're just happy and you move through and that's it. But when you are challenged with things in life where you need to grow and to deal with things and really grow up. And I lost my father when I was 23 and my mother was 30. And I was without parents. And I was a mama, daddy's girl. And we had a very big family. And in a 10-year period of my life, I lost my mother, my father, all my grandparents, and 2 or 3 aunts and uncles.
And in any family, but in especially a Jewish family.
Absolutely.
The family is the heart of the world.
So here I am at 23 years old, and my father's dead, and my mother's falling apart, and I'm the one, and my 2 sisters are collapsing. I had to grow at 23. I had to grow up and take care of everybody.
Yes.
And then at 30, when my mother passed away, it was the same thing. I became the mother and the grandmother to the world. But, I found that with prayer, with my own confidence of what I could do, and I figured, I always say, Lord, I know you don't give me more than I can handle.
And he doesn't.
And you know what? There was no choice. But like just as in your experience, and I really truly believe, Carol, you're talking tonight, and I know that brought up a lot of emotion in you, but I think that there's a lot of people in your listening audience that will relate to what you've been through, or that are going through it right now. And you are like a beacon of hope for that.
Oh, that happened 30 years ago. So I realized that when we're faced with it's a very humbling experience. It changes you. And your priorities, as I said, line up right away. Okay, and things that you thought you needed to have, they disappear. They go out the door. But you come to understand that there is a difference between happiness and joy.
Right.
And I have joy in my life. And I will never take things for granted anymore. I appreciate every single day. And when I take my walks in the morning, I say, you know what? Here we go, Lord. It's a brand new day. I know you have things that you're going to open up, reveal. And I'm ready. Let's do it.
And you know what, Carol, what I want to say to you is, I am so glad that you're here. I am so glad that you survived everything. I'm so glad that you had all the experiences that you had in your life. I'm so glad that we got to meet and be friends, because I have learned and I grow from you.
Thank you.
And I admire you. And every time I see you and we talk, I learn more about you. And it's like this onion is starting to peel, and we're getting deeper. And I love the thought that you are opening up this way and letting people see who you really are. And through doing that, it allows me to see who you are. And I think you're an amazing woman. And thank you so much for sharing. Please come back again next week. We're going to have a great special guest for some more chit chat and some more Women to Women.